The following is instructions on how to, if you're running a Windows computer and you have this command available, to check for any files on your computer that are encrypted or ciphered. You type out cipher. In this case, it's spelled cipher, and then you put in space /u, that has to be capitalized, then space /n capitalized, then space /h capitalized, and then another space, and then you put a greater than sign. This is the right side of my screen, and also this is my right arm. The video I'm putting up to you is in mirror image mode for me to view so I can do feedback correctly. The greater than sign redirects whatever it puts out, and you then add a space after the greater than sign, and you put in cipherh.txt or whatever file name you want. That will find all of the encrypted files on all hard drives that are plugged in at the time to the computer that the operating system knows about and is responsible for managing the encryption of, and will not change any of the encryption keys. It just tells you whether or not files are encrypted. This can be very useful because sometimes a piece of software will be installed by you and it will ask the operating system to encrypt something, and you'll click yes, not really thinking. And this forces it to use an encryption key that you may have agreed to use you're not aware of. And you're going to have to know all the functions in it. So you might have to type in cipher, space, /, greater than sign, space, cipher.txt or something like that to get the manual of all the functions. And it gets really complicated. I'll have a cut and paste of it below in the video description. It may or may not be tolerated because YouTube and Google complain about certain characters and get really angry when you use them. And instead of just substituting them and getting rid of them, YouTube will just sit there and pout until you figure out, what you've done wrong. I'm not going to tell you what you did wrong because you'll then correct it, and I can't sit here and complain. And it will just sit there. So I'm going to be posting the video and literally putting in the lines one at a time until I figure out what it's complaining about first, then look for that character or whatever and get rid of them and then continue. Which means that the description below will be broken because I don't have a choice. So, the H displays files even if they have hidden or system attributes. They're normally not included in the list. The U updates user file encryption keys or recovery keys to the current ones if they are changed and tries to touch all of the encrypted files on the local drive. This option can also work with option N, which you're including here. It prevents keys from updating. This option only works with the U option and is used to find all encrypted files on all local drives without changing them. Now, I'm going to point out something. If you type it wrong, and I'm using uppercase characters because that's what's suggested everywhere, because apparently it starts complaining about case sensitivity. This could be an extremely destructive thing to do to your computer, because what if you have something that you quote-unquote encrypted and it's over here, but it's really a piece of encryption for a past file or a program or whatever, and it needs it not to be messed with, but you just type in the H and U, it displays all the hidden and visible both files are encrypted, the U updates everything, and instead of the N, which means don't, being there, you forget it, and it messes up the file. This is where all of the behaviors of the program, unless you put in, an alteration that says update, which is the U, you should be able to just have it display all the files that are normally omitted, and that's it. So guess what? We can type in cipher space /h space greater than sign cipherh.txt and then dump a list of the files that way, right? When I tried to do that, it wasn't behaving itself. It seems to need to use an apparently booby-trapped function and then tell it no, instead of just giving me a list of the encrypted files on it. The normal thing on other operating systems is for encryption or crypt, you type in the function /L for list and /A for all, not anything else, and just dump it to a text file and throw it up on the screen. When I tried to throw it on the screen, it refused to list anything unless I tantalizingly gave it the ability to update and then negated the update so it just lists things. This is one of those examples, if that's actually how it's working, that makes me wonder how many times I'm going to find on forums that this did, in fact, screw up someone's computer. The reason I brought this up is every once in a while your computer will suddenly say, would you like to back up your encryption keys? I don't have any. Anyway, and it's really enthusiastic about it because it's one of those stopping the proceedings with stupidity type messages. If I have encrypted files on my computer, wouldn't me backing up the keys, that would make it to where I can access them again, right? But wouldn't that make it to where I'm carrying around something that's the equivalent to a decryption set, right? Now, if you think Microsoft Corporation is going to make it something intuitive, you're new here. Just like I'm wondering if, it should let me do cipher.yada yada and dump it as a text file and not need me to do anything other than the H option, which it should work. But again, the information in here, including a really, really terrible version of the help file that it dumps out because I gave it the /?, which will print out the help file on the screen and dump it to a text file. It absolutely has some of the worst formatting and worst methodology for communication I've seen in my life. This looks like something that Microsoft Corporation booby-trapped to make sure you'd break your computer by encrypting things that weren't, or decrypting things that weren't supposed to be, or making them all use the same encryption, or a stack of keys, which is what the cipher system is supposed to do, multiple keys, right? And again, what if it's a computer program that needed me to encrypt it at that moment and not change it later, and this just automatically, I'm going to screw it up. The problem with this is the cipher function can be run from any other program that you've given rights to, which is the only way to run some programs. They're not able to. It's either you have no security or you can't get any goddamn thing done. And as I mentioned, I don't cipher anything because I don't trust Windows to encrypt anything. If I want something encrypted, again, this is only for things that Windows is encrypting in the file system that it knows about. Not something I manually did. I'm not ever going to let that happen, so I disabled it. So I had this message pop up, and it had encrypted, it had ciphered a file on the hard drive that was blank, that I didn't create, that the operating system created seemingly to put up the message to ask me if I wanted to make a backup key. Out of nowhere. Right after I typed in, news.google.com and looked up the latest news about Microsoft Corporation having security problems, and then poof, I get what looks like almost like a cyber attack behavior. So if you were asked, do you want to back up your encryption keys, blah, 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 you might want to check your computer to see if anything's encrypted. And just to keep it from doing this, by the way, I couldn't turn off the message that kept coming up because it kept insisting on backing up a key for a file that not only I never encrypted, it was a zero-length file and wasn't encrypted. It said it was, but when I checked, the file itself said not encrypted. So that got suspicious quick, and I ran a virus scan and found out, no, it's just the operating system dicking with me. And yeah, it was a file that the operating system created seemingly so that it could put up an error message. Just busy work for the human. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you type in cipher space /H space greater than sign C:/cipher.txt, it should be just fine and just spit out a list of encrypted files on the drive, right? Right? Bye. Good luck. You'll need it.